Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Carmen, and this is another episode of the Y Tu Novio late night show, adults only edition. Last week, we actually had an OnlyFans content creator. Her name is Jupiter from Jupiter Says Hello Gorgeous. So if you're interested in monetizing and taking ownership of your content, don't forget to tune into that episode. That episode is available. I'll also put down more descriptions below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. But for this week's episode, and it's kind of a perfect timing because next month is Valentine's Day. So, everyone might be like swiping or signing up for the apps. So I do want to welcome this week's guest. We have Julia, who's the director of brand marketing at Match Group, which is a global leader in one of our favorite dating apps. So thank you so much, Julia, for being with us. If you want to kind of introduce yourself and a little bit about you and your work with Match Group.
Sure, of course. Thank you so much for having us as guests, for inviting us. We love the opportunity to talk to people in general and tell them a little bit more about our story and about our brand. So like you said, Chispa is the #1 dating app made for US Latinos. We are part of Match Group. Like you said, we are a big company with some of people's favorite dating apps and sites. That is what our specialty is. We were founded, I think, 25 years ago, almost 26. So we have a long history. We started with the one everyone knows, our flagship, which was Match.com. And then many years later, we also created Tinder, which revolutionized the category, introduced new elements that were unknown, like the swiping that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time an app had a swiping. This dual opt-in also didn't exist before, where two people have to swipe right on the other or have to select the other in order to start a conversation. And it also gamify a little bit the whole process. And so we've evolved a lot, and Match also owns other favorites out there, like Hinge, OkCupid, Plenty of Fish, Our Time, BLK, Black People Meet. So we have a big set of dating apps inside, and some are dedicated to specific intentions, so relationship intent. So, you could say that Match maybe is for more serious intent. Something like Tinder could be more casual intent. Hinge, I would say it is a mix between the two of them, is maybe younger, but still serious intent, is the app that's meant to be deleted. And then my specific role, I work for a group within Match Group that's called Match Affinity. And what we do is we create and market these apps that are dedicated specifically for communities, for specific communities. And these communities can be based on culture. It can be based on race. They can be based on religion. They can be based on age as well. So within this group, we manage a set of apps that are either for the Black community or the Latino community or baby boomers, or that community with a more serious intent. So we really believe that in order to connect, you have to have similarities. That is really one of the principles in psychology, to connect with others. And so we really try to understand what groups desire to date within their own affinity groups. And that's how we decide to launch new products. And so I joined Match about over 3 years ago, about 3.5 years ago, before we launched the Latino app. I joined to manage other brand marketing initiatives for our other brands. And we were in conversations, they were already in conversations about, the need for a Latino app, and there wasn't a Latino app. Normally what you find are mainstream apps trying to target and attract other communities.
Specific groups, yeah.
Groups, so they switch how they talk and their communications, and maybe the influencers they work with or the media that they pick. But there wasn't really a dedicated product. And so in December 2017, we launched Chispa, and I was here for that. And it's been an incredible journey. We have by now almost 4 million downloads of the app.
Wow, 4 million?
Great. Yeah, we are, I think, Last time I checked, it's about 3.8 million downloads. So it's been a wonderful journey. We've learned a lot in terms of what matters to Latinos in the dating space. When you think about the different groups, it's not the same. The groups don't have the same desires and dreams and challenges, when they're dating. So if you think about maybe a 30-year-old, maybe they want to meet somebody serious to get married, and they dream about having kids and white picket fence houses. and and maybe when you think about people over 60, maybe they've already been there, they've done that, and so maybe what they're looking for is companionship, somebody that they can
Right.
travel with. And so these are not the same people, they don't need the same things, they're not looking for the same things, and also the things that help them connect are different for each group. So if you think about Tinder, that's more casual, this desire to enjoy the single life are for people. And that doesn't mean obviously that there aren't people that are looking for serious relationships that don't go on Tinder. But in general sense, it's more casual, and the tone is more casual. And if you think about, our Christian app, and what the tone is there, and what will help people make meaningful connections, which is our main mission, is different. So for Chispa, our main mission is to connect Latinos in the US. So
And I know for everyone that just tuned in, Julia is going to be talking about the Chispa app in specifics, because I know Match Group has a lot of other apps. But the reason why we wanted to talk about Chispa también is she mentioned a lot of key important terms, community, it's a group, like-mindedness. People are looking for a specific thing when they jump on the Chispa app. So for users that maybe haven't heard of Chispa, or they're kind of like, well, why would I use Chispa as opposed to like Tinder? Like, what if I just want something more casual? Can I find that in the Chispa app? Like, how would you sell Chispa for someone who's like, well, why would I use that? I mean, yes, I'm Latino, but why would I use this specific app? Or if I'm not Latino, like, can I still use the app?
yeah, we get a lot of those questions. Those are great questions. I think there's a couple of ways to answer that. The first one is people normally are not just on one dating app. People tend to use multiple dating apps. That is the case definitely for Latinos. They are
Yeah.
active users of dating apps. So the fact that you are on Tinder doesn't mean that you might not be using, another app, and that's normally the case. Now, if you decide to go on a Latino dating app to search for a Latino, is because you identify strongly with the Latino culture. And so you want to go to a space where you can find people who understand your culture, appreciate your culture, they understand how you connect with your family, how important your family is to you, what your traditions are. So if you're a Latino and decide to go on Chispa, you know that there will be people looking for people like you, and they are looking to connect based on the basis of culture and similarities, and this bicultural experience, this immigrant experience that many of us been through. And I think for the most part, unless you've been through that experience, it's really hard to explain it and understand it. So our service there to the community is like, you don't have to explain it. It's like you understand my humor, you understand, that my mom might say, hay comida en la casa, that my mom might tell me, llévate un suéter before you go out. And so those are the little wings that we know, unless you're a Latino, you will not understand. And so people who are not Latino but love Latinos can also go on Chispa. Our intention is not to exclude people. Our intention is to give people a space where they know they can meet people with similarities, with similar backgrounds, with similar experiences. So in terms of intent, if you are on, can you find, serious relationships or casual relationships? The way
I know everybody wants to know, like, what can I get out of an app? Like,
we've gotten tons of marriages out of Chispa. I think in general we hear that people see Chispa a little bit more like the real thing, the more serious intent, in a way that, if you're looking for a Latino, means you're already looking for somebody you can bring home and that your mom can call mijo. uh,
Right.
that kind of thing. And so it's that spirit. It's like, I know my parents will be, my grandma, my abuelita will be able to speak in Spanish, and my partner will understand that, my novio will understand that. And so
Hmm.
that said, obviously the functionality is very simple, it's very easy to use, it's very much close to the experience that you would get on Tinder, in the sense of how you use the app. So there are also people that are looking to meet friends. We've talked to many users, for example, who live in places where being a Latino isn't the majority, like it would be in LA or like it would be in Dallas. We found people that told us that, and I actually just got a new success couple that contacted me, and
Hmm.
I'm going to be publishing that story soon. But she basically was saying, living in Las Vegas, she lives in Vegas. Um, it's a hit or miss when you date, because chances are you're going to meet someone who's a tourist and is going to leave
Oh,
soon.
true. Not a lot of people live in Vegas.
Yeah, so Chispa was a way for her to find a Latino that was local. And so,
Yeah.
and we found others, people who are studying in markets that might not be traditionally Latino, where you are not surrounded by Latinos all day, like you might be in some states or some
No,
cities.
that's very true. I know I found out about Chispa, well, through like influencers, but also one of my friends. She moved to Portland after school, and it's there's not a lot of big Latino community in Portland, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
she was like, that's something that like I connected with some people on the app, and she did mention it was friends. Like maybe it wasn't a dating, but
Yeah.
friendships kind of blossomed out of it.
We've met a lot of people that told us that they use the app to meet friends, and then a ver qué pasa, right?
Right.
You never know, but you want to hang out. Sometimes you just want to hang out in a place where you're a Latina, you know how we connect with one another, you know how
Hmm.
immediately these friendships spark because you've lived through the same experiences. They understand that for us Latinos, sometimes we're not Latino enough for our Latino friends, we're not American enough for our American friends. Only a Latino can understand those challenges, and we have a lot of things that we share in common. So a lot of people use the app to meet friends. And that said, again, we've had many couples that have already gotten married, that are expecting babies, that had babies in the app. And so when we talk to our members, many say, in the other apps, I wasn't really finding the person that was looking for the same things that I was looking for, which is really, you know, formar una familia, bring somebody home, that type of thing.
No, that's important. And honestly, I feel like community, feeling accepted, or even just having similarities. Because I know you mentioned, the app is inclusive for anyone. So people that love Latino culture, maybe they're not ethnically Latino or come from a specific Latin American country, but they identify with the values, the culture, the food. What are some
Maybe
things?
they've spent, their summers in Mexico, so they feel very attached to the culture. They feel the culture
Right.
is a lot of fun. We have a very fun culture, a very colorful culture, a very loud and
Yeah.
celebrity culture. And many other groups are attracted to that, and that is
Hmm.
valid. But again, primarily our promise is this is a Latino dating app where you can come and meet people who share similar experiences and values and traditions and background.
What are some things that, like for example, if someone's new to Chispa and they download the app, what are some things that they might find are different when setting up their profile that are not in other match dating apps?
Um, I think there's a couple of big differences. Obviously, the language, the tone, and all that. You can download the app in English or Spanish, depending on what your language of preference is, because that's a big thing here
That's
for Latinos in
that's
the
really
US.
good. Yeah.
And every time we send messages, every time we craft any messages to our members, we're very mindful of that. So we do English, we do Spanglish, we also do Spanish. The other big difference is that on Chispa, you can actually put what your roots are and display your flag to
Mm,
show how you identify. And we know that for many people who are US born Latino,
right.
they identify as American, but they might also identify as Mexican because both their parents are from Mexico. Or, if one of your parents is from El Salvador and the other one is from Honduras, you might want to put both. So we allow people with multiple flags to show, if they are bicultural, if they have an immigrant experience. And I think the other big difference actually is when you actually navigate through the profiles, how they talk about themselves and how they describe themselves. So for example, if you go on Tinder, you might find that somebody's saying, I speak Spanish, I love Mexican food. And then on Chispa, you would find somebody actually switching back and forth between languages without actually saying, I speak Spanish. You will find people saying, I make fajitas every weekend. Instead of saying, I like Mexican food, it's like, I live this culture, I live this reality. And so those are basically the big differences. In addition to that, we integrate every few months, we add a feature, particularly a feature we're going to be adding one this Valentine's Day. We added one last Valentine's Day. We added one for COVID. We also added one different one for the elections. And so we add features to entertain and surprise and delight our members. And the way we implement these features is also very different, something that you wouldn't find on a mainstream app because it's not relevant to everybody.
Right.
And so, for example, on our Valentine's Day feature last year, that was like, would you rather be doing this or that? We have things like, I would rather stay warm and cozy with my chocolate abuelita. Or I'd rather, have a tequila because, para olvidar las penas.
Yeah.
And that type of things that are, or, I don't know, FaceTime with your abuelita, things that only a Latino dating app could do. Even if you are a mainstream app and you're kind of offering your app to the Latino community, they couldn't really provide that user experience that is so close to their culture, that they can laugh about, that they can say, oh my God, these people get me. And, it's not just these people get me, but the other people on the other side of this profile will also get me.
No, I love that. I feel like I forgot what the saying is, de aquí soy yo, like this is my thing. And I think honestly this app it's good because you can really be your authentic self. I feel, and I do identify with it. Like, I'm from here, but I was born over there. So it's like I'm from two separate worlds. So sometimes, you're code switching. You're like, I don't know what side of me I need to be today and what side I can be tomorrow. So if you're just listening with Chispa, you could be your authentic self. You can show your culture, your roots, what you're doing.
And also you can show that you are an 100% an American and 100% a Latino, and only someone with that dual identity, with that 200%, understand what that means, which means we can be having a conversation that sounds 100% mainstream or gringa. But all of a sudden we start switching to Spanglish. We start, when we repeat a phrase that our mom told us, we say it in Spanish. And so it's basically, yes, it's being your 100%, being or your 200% versus trying to, like you said, code switch or adjust how Latina you are, because other people might not get it. Other people might not get that you want to hug them and kiss them, pre-COVID, of course.
Right.
We hug and kiss everybody. We hug and kiss our teachers. We hug and kiss our doctors. And sometimes people look at you like, whoa, what are you doing? So unless you're a Latino, you really don't get that. And so I think that, again, it's a choice, it's a personal choice, and but we think that there are very powerful bases for people to connect with, and having similarities is a really important part to building a successful relationship. And so that's what we are trying to offer.
No, that's amazing. And I know we have to touch up on this as well because, we're currently living in it. But with the pandemic, how did that affect dating apps, and how did that affect the Chispa app? Because I feel like, no one really knew the pandemic was gonna last as long as it is ongoing. But people still want to talk to others. People still want to connect. I feel like even during times of chaos, people still want to find love, connection. So what are some ways that Chispa has kind of pivoted or like changed some of its, messaging to encourage people to date safely?
I mean, I think at the first moment, like you said, it was like, oh my God, what are we doing? We're offering a dating app in a world where people can't actually meet.
Right.
So what do you do? And then all of a sudden, and I think this is across all of our apps because we've seen growth across all of our apps last year. But particularly for Chispa, we are a very, very social community. Hispanics are,
Mm-hmm.
everything is a fiesta. Everything is a party. You got the posadas, the big family party. You bring somebody to your mom and she has 20 other people, la comadre, la abuelita, everybody else that wants to meet you. And we by nature are a very, very social community. So it's like, okay, what value can our apps offer or app offer to this community, understanding that the impact on our Latinos can be even harder to cope with than for mainstream that might not have this social DNA as much as we do. So
Right.
we did a few things actually. We rethought our message, and then all of a sudden we realized, oh my God, in a world where people can't go out at bars, in a world where people can't go to concerts or big parties, how are they going to meet others? So all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden you're limited to chatting and interacting via video, just with the people that you knew from before. So we realized that the value that we could offer now was actually bigger, because all of a sudden we're opening doors for you to meet people in a world where people can meet, meaning you can get to know others, you can start a conversation, you can start seeing if you have similarities, if you would be interested in dating eventually when you can see
Right.
in person. So we definitely adjusted our message to you it's distancing, but that doesn't mean that you can't connect with others. So
Mm-hmm.
beyond meeting people is finding others, is making that connection, is not feeling isolated, is having the opportunity to still discover other people, in the safety and and being comfortable at your own pace. So that's part of it. I think what we also did is we started partnering with many dating coaches that we went out in the media. We published tips throughout all last year around, how do you do virtual dating? What are, I love your dog.
I know. He
um,
agrees.
he agrees with what I'm saying clearly. And so it's like we started putting out there a lot of dating advice, like what does a virtual date look like? What are some
Mm-hmm.
tips to do a virtual date? How long should it be? What activities can you share that are virtual? So the other thing that we did in addition to kind of changing our message is like, how else can we provide value to our members so that they feel prepared to do this and have fun with it versus feel in isolation. And then,
Right.
so that's another thing that we did. Other things that we did just to inform ourselves was we did a few surveys in the app to understand how people were feeling about meeting in person, about meeting somebody virtually only, if people were open, and it was good. We saw a lot of people that would be open to virtual dates, but many wanted to wait. Many wanted it to still be, socially distanced in a way. And so we
Mm-hmm.
started developing a lot of tips and a lot of useful information for our users. We changed our messaging in terms of what value can our app bring to you now. And then, like I said before, we also added a COVID feature to our app. That was actually really fun. I think we change it every week, I want to say. So it was
Mm-hmm.
basically a lot of fun to read because it was, how are you spending your quarantine time? And it had really fun, like cuddling with all the toilet paper I purchased. Like
Yeah.
it had a lot of fun. And so trying to give them some entertainment value as well. So I
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of things. And then we also have tools that we use to communicate with our members, like our push notifications. And so we were sending push notifications that were like, you know, we never encourage people during quarantine to meet in person. We
Right.
encourage people to find your person, to look for your person, to find love, but never We never wanted them to do it in a way that felt that was unsafe or that we were being irresponsible with this. We took it very, very seriously. And so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it was equipping our member to be able to have these dates and get to know people without putting themselves at risk.
No, and that's important. I feel like as an app and as a match group as a company, like that's very important because there are a lot of young people that are by themselves. They live by themselves. They're working from home. They're spending a lot of time in isolation and obviously trying to be safe and everything. So if they can find comfort in the apps and safely meet somebody and create connections and communicate, and some people like, even like the video, it's still we've gotten used to it now because we've been doing this for so long, but some people are shy, so it takes them a bit more time. But at least if people want, they have the option to connect with someone through a video chat or just the traditional, regular texting.
Yeah, and I think that what happened is before COVID, I think people were a lot, especially I want to believe women, more
Yeah.
hesitant to go on a video date.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, you want to text, you want to make plans, and then you want to meet, or you want to text and get to know the other person for a long time. That really, really changed as video became the norm for socialization. Within
Right.
that group, a lot of our apps, Chispa hasn't yet, hopefully is in the plan soon, but a lot of our apps and sites added video dating or video chatting or vibe check in the case of Match, so you can get a vibe for the other person, see if you were still interested
Mm-hmm.
the conversation. So I think as that became the new norm, um, people started to feel a lot more comfortable that, okay, I can still meet people. I can still, extend or expand my social circle. I don't have to be confined by myself. Like you said, I know a lot of
Mm-hmm.
girls who live by themselves, don't have even a pet.
Right.
I think it's very, very lonely. Like, what are you gonna do with your time? And
Mm-hmm.
it can be sad and really depressing if you think about it. And so basically what we were trying to do is show that there was still a way to meet people, like, meeting people wasn't canceled, just dating in person was. Um,
Right.
and we actually saw growth, I think, across the board for all our apps, definitely for Chispa. We saw a huge increase on downloads year over year. So I think we grew total downloads year over year 85%, which is
Mm-hmm.
huge. And then in terms of like natural number of downloads year over year, like 4 downloads for the year between 2019 and 2020, I think we've gotten about 30% more downloads than the year before during COVID. So that really,
Wow.
I think, it's evidence that people really saw that singles or people who are wanted to meet friends really saw value in dating apps. And for our community, I think that was clear too.
No, that's literally hitting the nail on the head because I myself, like, I'm Latina, I'm Mexican. I agree with everything. I have, 4 or 5 apps on my phone.
That's how
You're
it
trying to
is.
find connections.
That's how it is. This is very different than when you think about, like, you know, buying a car, where if you buy one car, you actually can't buy the other one at the same time.
Right.
On dating apps, people don't have that issue. They can experiment with one, and then they can experiment with the other one, and just like see what the options are out there. And you might be a Christian Latina, so you might be on a Christian app. Our Christian app is called Upwards.
Hmm.
Also doing great. And so you might be on a Christian app and might also be on a Latino app, and then you might also be out there in the wild uh,
Right.
on a mainstream app and see what happens. You
I
never know
know.
to swipe.
I know. Valentine's is next month, so I'm not sure if you're able to share. But would you say that during the Valentine's month is when you get the most downloads of the
No,
app?
actually, dating. So our kind of peak season. It's funny. It really started the day after Christmas. And
Really?
yeah, and this is in general for the dating. Dating Sunday is called the first Sunday of the year. Actually, if you Google it, you'll find it. And this is a term that Match, I think, coined many, many years ago. And it's
Mm-hmm.
the first Sunday after the new year. So I think this year was the fourth or the third. I think that January 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
That's the day in which most people sign up for dating apps. And if you
Wow.
think about it, it does make sense because, people do New Year's resolutions. So just as
Yes.
people say, this year I'm joining the gym, this year I'm going to quit smoking, this year I am going to start meditating. A lot of people say this year I am going to make sure I find a boo so that next year I don't have to hear el novio questions. I
Right. Yeah.
don't have to deal with my tias, telling me like, oh, at your age, I was already married and had 3 kids. So, you are 23 and you're like, oh my God, no way. And so
Yeah.
people make these New Year's resolutions. Okay, this is it. This is the last time I'm attending holiday parties alone.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, I want to have somebody that I share my life with, that I share moments with, that I can think of the future with. So if you think about it, it makes sense. It works pretty much as a New Year's resolution. I think Valentine's obviously is important. It goes, our peak season goes all the way through Valentine's, but I think Valentine's is more of a couples celebration.
Yes.
And we're a lot into like serving singles and helping singles make these meaningful connections. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's important, but I wouldn't say it's like the date. I think the date
Mm-hmm.
for us is really right after the holiday season where everybody's reflecting on, okay, what just happened last year, how do I want to live my life next year, what is my vision of happiness. And for a lot of people that means finding a partner. And
Yes. So if you're trying to live your best life, download the Chispa app. It's available for
I don't want to sound like I'm selling anything. I'm here just to share our
yeah.
experience. It's a lot of fun. And it's definitely a lot of fun to have a Latino dating app because we have some great things that make us great, that,
Mm-hmm.
culture great. We're flirty and we're spicy and we're fun and we're very, very diverse. And it's really important to know that it's important to acknowledge these differences and your own
Right.
identity. That's why even though we are a Latino dating app and we expect most people to be Latino in the app, we want you to show your flags because we want to acknowledge that you have an individual identity, like as a Salvadorian or as a Puerto Rican or whatnot, and not just be called a Latino. And so
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of differences and there are a lot of similarities, and we want to be able to honor and celebrate both. So we celebrate national independence days for each country if you look at our social media channels. And then we talk about the things that unite us as a culture.
And where can people find Chispa on social media?
You can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Instagram, and you can find us on TikTok. Our TikTok channel is really growing like crazy these days.
Everyone's on TikTok right now.
Well, we put some really, really fun videos, so I encourage you to check it out. There are some videos that have millions of views by now, and so people can find us on those channels. We have a Twitter, but it's not really very active as much as our other channels. I would say that our most active channels are probably IG, Instagram, and
Mhm.
right now, and we also have some Facebook. But yeah, and then obviously on the App Store, the app.
Yes. So I hope that you all learned a little bit about the Chispa app and how it's different, from other mainstream apps, because the focus of today's episode was really about community and finding people that are either like-minded or share some type of connection, because when you're dating, I feel like that's always tough. You're always trying to find out like, okay, I like you, but
What do you
there's
have in
no,
common? What,
yeah, there's
what
nothing in common.
it's like sometimes the commonality has with dogs or
Right.
travel. Like a lot of people talk about dogs, a lot of or pets. A lot of people talk about their love for travel. For example, that's another thing that unites people. But for us, as a Latino community, we have so much, music and food and
Mm-hmm.
holidays and the things that your mom used to tell you and the things that matter to your abuelita and it's just so great not to have to explain those things. It's just so great not to have to explain posadas for others
Right.
and what they mean. So yeah, that's really the value community app can bring.
Yes. So thank you so much, Julia, for being with us. And if you are interested in, downloading the Chispa app, it is available for iPhone and Android users.
Correct. It's free. We have paid memberships if you want to upgrade. It's just like Tinder if you want to be able to rewind or see who likes you before you swipe right, or if you want to skip ads and things like that. We have memberships, but the app is 100% free to search for a partner, to match with somebody, and to chat with anybody. And so, you can give it a try for free. You don't know until you swipe.
Yes, we like free. Trust me, gratis
Exactly. That's
anytime.
no hay nada que perder. No hay nada que perder.
Right, yeah.
You never know. En una de esas te encuentras un papacito, una mamacita. Who knows?
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Julia, for being with us. And don't forget, we are live next week on Wednesday at 8 p.m. We're going to be having a very interesting podcaster with us who talks about love, sex, and relationships. She's actually based in San Diego, so we'll be sharing more of that later. But thank you so much, Julia, and I hope you have a good rest of your week. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.